All right. I think I put a lot more on here than I meant to. That's what's confusing me so bad. Well, we'll see. We'll see how far we get. My paper's got a lot more than the thing up there had. So we got through, we didn't quite, well, technically we kind of bulldozed through chapter 6, but we're going to back up just a little bit and grab some of the little bit that we didn't get to, which is about verse, we'll call it verse 9. But just to refresh our memories, the biblical timeline, I think we've been through that. Always worth keeping in mind. Very simple. We're still in the first cycle. And remember, we're looking at Revelation. Think of it like a movie. I tend to think about things like a movie anyway, or a book, if you want to put it that way. Movie, book, show, but especially the book of Revelation. But it's not a 7-part series, that one that builds upon the other, picking up where the other one left off, but 7 different versions of the same story, 6 remakes, if you will. It's not a prophetic sneak peek of what will physically happen on earth at the end of time, but it is a divine declaration of what has been taking place since the beginning of time and will continue to take place until the end of time. And most importantly, has some much needed spoilers of how those events end. And that is sort of the key. So here's what we've looked at so far. Chapter 4, that throne, the throne of God, the throne room of heaven, a door standing open in heaven. Then chapter 5, the vision sort of shifts. Shifts is probably a bad word because it's same setting and everything. But there was the lion and the lamb and the scroll. And the lamb, which is also the lion, was the only one that was worthy to open the scroll and to look, to break the seals and look at what's inside. It's Jesus, obviously. Hard to miss. So once the scrolls start to be opened, we saw the first 4 seals, not scrolls, seals. The first 4 seals were the horsemen, the 4 horsemen, the infamous 4 horsemen. And they were sent out to and brought sort of calamity on the earth, I guess you could say. That's the first 4 seals. What were they? War, slaughter, famine, and death. But then is when it changed was the 5th seal. It says they were under the altar, the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the witness they had borne. And they were crying out to God, "How long, Lord? How long? How long until you avenge us? How long until you avenge our blood?" Yeah, that's definitely not supposed to be happening. Just let that go. It'll be up there eventually. I can't tell what's happening on my little screen down here. How long until you avenge us? And he says they were all given a white robe and told to rest a little longer until the number of their fellow servants and their brothers should be complete. In other words, until the time, the time appointed, until the time that I have set. God knows exactly how many people will be saved. He knows who they are. This is not to say that there is a predetermined number. God knows the number, right? There's a difference between God knowing the number of people that will be saved and God setting the number of people that will be saved. Big difference. God knows the number, and that's probably all that we should take from this. And the time is really irrelevant. God doesn't, notice he doesn't say, he doesn't answer this exact much time longer it will be. He just says, just wait a little while. You ever told your kid, or a little longer, you ever told your kids that? Or you ever been told that? Just a little while. A little later. Huh? Yeah, are we there yet? We'll be there. A little longer. Usually when we say that, the point is there's no point telling the exact time, even if you know it. It's just a little longer. Not yet, maybe, would be a better look at that. So that's the fifth seal. Then the sixth seal, there begins to be utter chaos and destruction all over the earth. Change in scenery, but also fast forwarding through time. Fast forwarding, if you will, through that little while, that little longer. It fast forwards, and John starts seeing these unparalleled cataclysmic events taking place on the earth. A great earthquake, the sun became black as sackcloth, the full moon became like blood, the stars of the sky fell to the earth, and the sky vanished like a scroll. Now, in the Gospels, this kind of language is used in connection with Jesus' second coming at times. But while John is not he's not meaning to describe a literal depiction of what the end of the world will look like, but nevertheless, the New Testament does explicitly say that when Jesus returns, the earth's going to be destroyed. In fact, it doesn't just say the earth's going to be destroyed. It says the whole universe will be destroyed. 2 Peter 3, verse 10 says, the day of the Lord will come like a thief, and then the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done on it will be consumed. Then he says, we're waiting for and hastening the coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be set on fire and dissolved, and the heavenly bodies will melt as they burn. So that will happen when Jesus returns. But this language in Revelation chapter 6 is that typical apocalyptic language that is used of some sort of great event. Symbolic. Notice some of these things in this description aren't even possible physically. For instance, stars will fall to the earth. Now, if you think about the earth from the perspective of somebody on the earth, you would think, well, if one of those stars falls, it's going to fall on us, right? Doesn't it? That's natural to think that. But in reality, if a star just suddenly started falling for some crazy reason, it's not going to fall on the earth. It's probably not going to fall anywhere near the earth. It's figurative. It's symbolic. The sky can't roll up like a scroll. It's like that screen right there. J.E. did it the other day, accidentally. He pulled that thing, and there it went. It went, and it rolled up real quick. The sky can't do that. The sky is not even a physical thing. It's nothing. But this kind of language is used in this figurative, symbolic, apocalyptic way for the upheaval of the known existence of the earth. And it's really combining Old Testament language with some of the Jewish literature from between the Old and New Testaments. For instance, Isaiah chapter 34, verses 1 through 4, this kind of language is used. All the host of heaven shall rot away. The skies roll up like a scroll. That's the exact same language. All their hosts shall fall, the stars. Jeremiah 4:24. And by the way, that was about God's wrath on the nations. Isaiah used that kind of language for when God brings his wrath upon the nations. Jeremiah 4:24, the desolation of Judah. I looked on the mountains, and behold, they were quaking, and all the hills moved to and fro. Do you think that really happened? No. But he's describing in that apocalyptic language the desolation of Judah. Ezekiel 26:15, the destruction of Tyre. Thus says the Lord Jehovah to Tyre, shall not the isles shake at the sound of your fall? The islands are going to shake when they hear about your fall. So, at any rate, we shouldn't take this literally, like the details, but we should take it very seriously, because when the Lord returns, there will be an end of all this that we know, and that is about to be described further, because in the next little part, really, let's not lose sight of what the fifth seal was. What John is seeing in the sixth seal is the day that the martyrs were waiting for in the fifth seal. How long, Lord, until you judge and avenge our blood? Now the sixth seal is opened, and John is seeing that day when that's going to happen, which is the day of judgment, obviously. So in the next part, in verse 15, it shifts from the earth itself to the people on the earth. Then the kings of the earth and the great ones and the generals and the rich and the powerful and everyone, slave and free, hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains, calling to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand? See, there it is. What is this? It's the great day of the wrath of God. Well, what better day, what could that be more than the day of judgment? The last day. Jesus called it the last day, or that day. That's the day that John is seeing in the sixth seal here. And it's a pretty good rhetorical question that is put into the mouths of these hypothetical people. First of all, notice their reaction. Please hide us. You know it's extreme whenever they call for mountains to fall on them, just to be hidden from the wrath. But there's no point, is there? Can't hide on that day. There will be no hiding from the wrath that is to come. But there are some who won't be experiencing that wrath, aren't there? And guess where they're going to come in? Right now. Chapter 7. So calamity on the earth is what chapter 6 is dealing with, and it ultimately comes about it ends with the sixth seal of the end. Chapter 7 is the infamous, it's actually not the only place, but it's the introduction. I believe it comes back up later in chapter 14. So at least in chapter 14. I think it's maybe just in chapter 14. But it's the introduction of the notorious 144,000. Now, chapter 7 is not the seventh seal. It's a little interlude, a little break. So there's a little pause between the sixth seal and the seventh seal. And as we're going to see, the seventh seal is next to nothing. The major end has already come. The big, huge climax has already happened with the great day of the wrath of God and the Lamb. The day of the wrath of the one that was on the throne with the emerald rainbow and that looked like jasper and carnelian and all that. His wrath, God, and the wrath of that Lamb has come upon the earth and the people on the earth. Now in chapter 7 comes this little interlude. It says, "After this I saw 4 angels standing at the 4 corners of the earth, holding back the 4 winds of the earth, that no wind might blow on earth or sea or against any tree. Then I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun with the seal of the living God, and he called with a loud voice to the 4 angels who had been given power to harm earth and sea, saying, 'Do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the servants of our God on their foreheads.' And I heard the number of the sealed, 144,000, sealed from every tribe of the sons of Israel. 12,000 from Judah, 12,000 from Reuben, 12,000 from Gad, 12,000 from Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin." If I would have thought about it, I would have had a chart here for this. Because anybody want to... Okay, we won't go there yet. Let's back up to verse 1. 4 corners of the earth. You know what that means, right? John thought the earth was flat, right? How stupid can somebody be? The earth doesn't have corners. Well, this is an expression. 4 corners. The 4 corners. What might that mean? The 4 corners. All 4. Yeah, that's it. All. The 4 corners of the earth means all the earth. They were standing over, what they're about to say pertains to the whole earth. Notice also he says, they're holding back the 4 winds. 4 is symbolic. 4 is I don't have my number chart here. The cosmic number, I believe, is what it's called. So it pertains to the earth. So all the earth, the 4 winds, all the winds, I guess you could say, because he's holding back any more destruction until, it says, they have sealed the servants on their foreheads. And the number of them is 144,000. Now, let's just take that number at face value for a second. That's not very many, is it? At the end of the day, that's not very many at all. But the big question here that most people have is, who in the world are they? Who are these people? It's such a small number, relatively speaking. It's a pretty elite group. Only 144,000? Well, let's just go with what John tells us first. He tells us that whoever these 144,000 are from the tribes, from every tribe of the sons of Israel, or what we would call from every tribe of Israel. But here's where it gets strange. By the way, most premillennialists and a few other groups take what they believe is that these 144,000 are literal Jews. They're Jews. They are Jews, and the innumerable multitude that's in the second half of this interlude is Gentiles. Those are Gentiles. So the 144,000 are Jews. The innumerable, the great multitude are Gentiles. But we're going to see why this is some indicators why this is not the case. Here's one. All 12 tribes had totally lost their identity by the year AD 70. There's one reason. A long time ago. In fact, John wrote this at least 20 years after that. So they had already lost their identities. God knows, sure, but that's the least of the reasons why. Here's another one. It's extremely unlikely that exactly 12,000 people from each of the 12 tribes would be converted and saved. Highly unlikely. I mean, what are the odds? Out of the 12 tribes, exactly 12,000 on the dot from each one. And number 3, most importantly, when we take a close look at the list of tribes here, it reveals it's obviously figurative. So let's look. Let me name them again and see if anything sticks out to you. Judah, Reuben, Gad, Asher, Naphtali, Manasseh, Simeon, Levi, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, Benjamin. Anything stand out? Anything in particular? There's a few things. What's that? Okay, they're not in order. There's one. Okay, some missing? Yeah, Manasseh, or well, he was one of the tribes. Yeah, Manasseh was one of the tribes. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Ephraim isn't there, but there's a couple that are there that weren't tribes. I mean, Levi was a tribe, but Levi wasn't in the 12 tribes. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Levi was its own thing. Didn't have a portion of the land. Yeah. So, some are missing. Some are mentioned that are non-existent as far as the 12 tribes go. Joseph, I guess you could say, is in the place of Ephraim. Levi's in the place of, what did we say, Dan? Clearly, we're not talking about the 12 actual tribes of actual Israel, is the point. And the other one, like Wes said, Judah's first, and Reuben is second. So that's strange compared to the old, the way they would normally be listed. So there's another thing also that's extremely important in New Testament doctrine. Nationality has absolutely no bearing on spiritual standing with God at all. Romans 10:12, Paul said, a Jew, by the way, a Jewish Christian, there is no distinction between Jew and Greek. No, none. Well, if Revelation 7 is a vision of this special elite 144,000 as distinct from the rest of the saved, that sounds like a distinction, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah, okay, so here's what 144,000 is. It's 12 times 12 times 1,000, right? 12 is, anybody have that paper? Something I should have. Thank you. What's 12 say? Complete? Religious completeness? Okay, so 12 times 12, and then 1,000 is what? 10 times 10. 10 times 10 times 10, I guess I should say. So, yeah, you're getting the idea. It's the complete number. 144,000 is here, just cut to the chase. 144,000 is a figurative number that symbolizes the whole number of the saved. Remember what he said when the martyrs cried out, how long? He said, a little longer, until the number of their fellow servants and their brothers should be complete. Well, there you go. Until the complete number, the full number. Now they're getting the full number. There it is. 144,000 is not the number. That's a symbolic number for all of them, the complete number. Not one will go unnoticed and overlooked. I'll just read some of these others. Galatians 3:28, there is neither Jew nor Greek, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. Romans 9:6 and 7. Not all who are descended from Israel belong to Israel, and not all are children of Abraham because they're his offspring. 1 Corinthians 7:19. For neither circumcision counts for anything nor uncircumcision, but keeping the commandments of God. Romans 2:28-29. No one is a Jew who is merely one outwardly, nor is circumcision outward and physical, but a Jew is one inwardly, and circumcision is a matter of the heart, by the Spirit, not the letter. In other words, being a Jew means absolutely nothing. So, keeping the commandments of God is everything. Being a Jew or a non-Jew means nothing. And finally, the whole idea of the 144,000 being literal Jews contradicts the lamentations both of the Lord himself and Paul. If you remember when Jesus was in his triumphal entry and he was going into the Jerusalem, and all these people, these Jews, were gathered around him, and they were praising him and saying, Hosanna, son of David, and that was the highest point of Jesus' ministry, period. But when he rounded that corner on descending the mountain, he burst into tears, and not happy tears. He burst into just, again, talking about picturing things like a movie. I see that's so vivid to me. All these people shouting, praising, oh, Hosanna. But Jesus is bawling. And notice what he says. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often would I have gathered your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. Left to you. That word and the tense of that word is significant. It's permanent. Your house, the Jewish nation, will be left desolate. No, not a word or even a letter Jesus hints at, and neither does Paul. Romans 9, 1-3. He says, I have great sorrow and unceasing anguish in my heart. For I could wish that I myself were accursed and cut off from Christ for the sake of my brothers, my kinsmen according to the flesh. Why, Paul? Because they're lost. And the only way they're not going to be lost anymore is if they become Christians, accepting Christ. Well, once you become a Christian, you're not a Jew anymore. So why in the world would John be saying that that now in the end there's going to be a distinction, and somehow there were 144,000 Jews who were saved? Yes. Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
And those people were sealed. But then in verse 9, after these things, he built there a great multitude of people from all nations and all tribes. Like it was two separate, like these over here were sealed, separate from all of those that are saved. Like it was something different.
Yes, it is in the vision sense. He sees, but it doesn't necessarily indicate that we have two actual, literal, in real life, two different groups of people.
That died that were saved. I mean, Jews, people that died before Jesus.
People that, like Joseph, for instance, Mary's husband. It seems like he died earlier in Jesus' life. I mean, we have every indication that he was a faithful Jewish man, faithful to God's covenant at that time. And everybody that died, between Moses and him, and Jesus dying, who were faithful, yeah. But
that would be way more than
144,000? I know the Old Testament's not very flattering to the Israelites, but that, even 144,000 seems low for that. I do. I think that's what's being communicated here. They're sealed on their foreheads, like marked. They're marked. Here's the thing: we may not be able to answer every single question and make every single distinction, but it's the main message. This is why you can see why it's so easy to get lost in some of the details of the visions. But it seems to me that the great multitude, it says from every nation, but they're also saved, you see. So at the end, even if there is a specific group that's meant, which is unlikely, the point is, at the end of the day, they're all the saved. Yeah, they're all the saved. Now, what the basic premillennial idea, or the Jehovah's Witness, I believe, is that the 144,000 are going to be in heaven. They're the only people going to heaven. The rest will be on the new earth. That'll kind of be like heaven, okay? That's their doctrine. I may have be not doing it justice, but that's the general idea. But again, they're all the saved. They're all saved. So maybe the 144,000 is a reference to people of Jewish descent who were faithful. But the number itself is still figurative. It's still symbolic. So to Debbie's point, let's just say, okay, there are two distinct groups being mentioned, but they're both of the saved. They're both saved. So on this hand, we've got those of Israel, and on this hand, we've got those of every nation. But they're both the saved. So does that make more sense? The number is figurative, though, is not meant, obviously. Every single number is perfectly round. Now, I like that because I'm no friend of numbers, but it's clearly symbolic. Complete. So here, I've got it now written down. 12 is religious completeness. 1,000 is completeness of completeness of completeness. So every single person who's ever lived who belongs to the Lord is in this group.
And the people that were reading this at the time, they were very familiar with all those numbers being symbols of things. So like to them, that would have made sense immediately. Like 140,000 means completeness and all these things. Like it would have made sense to them. For us, we have to dig a little.
Yeah, it would have made sense to them, just like 13 and broken mirrors and walking under ladders and black cats and stuff would make sense to us, as a rule. Wouldn't mean anything to them. You write something with that kind of symbolism and put it in a time machine and send it back there, they're going to be like, this is some kind of weird witchcraft voodoo stuff. I don't know what this is. I don't know what any of this means. 13 and all that. Dean, do you have something?
Yeah, another thing about the saved, you know, that if you go back in the Old Testament, when Noah was there, how many people were saved? There was only 8. How many millions of people that were there? Okay, so you know, it's just a numbers game, and just like with the children of Israel going into the promised land, how many of the ones that were numbered went into it? There was only 2 of them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and that it's just, we're trying to figure out, how much, the numbers game, it's just a numbers game, that's all it is. You can, like they try to calculate, what that, 144,000, so, whatever,
It would be weird for them to tell about the exact number of people that are actually going to be the only ones saved. That would be pretty.
Well, again, according to the Jehovah's Witness, it's not that those are the only ones saved. They're the only ones going to be in heaven. Everybody else will be on the new heaven on earth.
No, but if that were the case, then we're all out of luck because the 144,000 that would be guaranteed to be in heaven, I think would have already
Yeah.
lived.
Heaven sold out a long time ago.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it,
Now you can only get resale value with like $1 million a ticket or whatever. So,
or although babies,
yeah.
or the baby, like I think of babies that died, they were totally innocent. Like they would definitely be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the promise, Peter said that we have an inheritance waiting for us where? In heaven. He said that to whom? Christians, those who have been purified their souls in obedience to the truth. 1 Peter 1:22. There's no indication anywhere in the New Testament that heaven is just a special place for a special elite group. Everybody else is going to be on the new earth. That doesn't exist. The new heaven and the new earth it's been distorted and twisted and perverted to match a certain ideology. Okay, so we didn't read verses 9 through 17, but that's the idea is. But I do want to read this one verse because it answers the question. Now, the great multitude from every nation, they are clothed in white robes. They're standing before the Lamb. Now, one of the elders said, "Who are these people?" Now, unfortunately, they didn't say that for the 144,000, or maybe that would have been explained. But who are these, clothed in white robes, and from where have they come? And John said, "Sir, you know." And he said to me, "These are the ones coming out of the great tribulation. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb." In other words, these are they who have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Well, who does that sound like a description of? Anybody who's been baptized into Christ for the remission of their sins. That's who this is. So, even if we make this distinction of verses 1 through 8 is a reference to those of Israel, and the others are those from every nation, which is definitely what the translators here of my Bible, at least, because it seems to divide it like that, and that might be skewing my what I'm seeing here. But the point is, they're all the saved collectively, every single one of them. Nobody's overlooked. Nobody will get confused with the lost. And then they're before the throne of God and serve Him day and night. Now, chapter 8 is the seventh seal. So all that was an interlude. How long? Little longer till the full number. Now we've got the full number. Those from Israel and from every nation. Now it's time for the seventh seal. And here's what it says. Have you heard the joke that's based on this verse? I'm not even going to say it.
It's something about there weren't any women there.
Yeah.
Just quiet for about half an hour.
Yeah. You heard that joke?
I have heard
There'll be no women in heaven
No.
because there was silence for half an hour. It's pretty good. Come on, ladies. It's funny. Anyway, when the Lamb opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. That's the whole. So here's the thing. Let's go back to like a movie. There's this cliffhanger, sort of, because the seventh seal hasn't been opened yet. Now, the Lamb, Jesus, opens the seventh seal, and then just picture the screen goes to black. You ever been watching a movie or a show, especially if you have to wait another week until the next episode comes, and you're like, "Oh, please don't end yet, please don't end yet," and then the screen goes black, and you're like, "Please don't be the end." As long as I don't see the credits, it may not be the end. And there might be like a few seconds of a pause before the first words pop up on the credits, and then you're like, "Oh, there it went." Imagine that black screen lasting about 30 minutes. And you're sitting there in utter suspense. That's what's happening right now. Silence. But the crazy part about this isn't just a pause before the seventh seal. This is it. That's the whole thing. So after 30 minutes, the credits start rolling. Now that would be something, wouldn't it? If I made TV or movies, I would almost want to do that because of the impression it would make, but it wouldn't go over well. But that's what happens here. He opens the seventh seal, and there's silence in heaven for about half an hour. And then, guess what? If you refer to your chart with the 7 cycles, that's the end of cycle 1. Chapter 8, verse 2 is the beginning of cycle 2. Because now it's going to shift. The 7 seals are over. Now we got the 7 trumpets. That's what's next. But I want to make this point because I think there's a lesson here. There is not, to quote Kaufman, he said, the most natural question after that 6th seal is, what will it be like in heaven? Because you had the calamity on earth, all this destruction. Then you got the sealing of the saved. Now the most natural question is going to be, and especially the way that the interlude ends, that we kind of skipped over. They're before the throne of God, serve Him day and night. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more. The sun shall not strike them, nor any scorching heat. For the Lamb in the midst of the throne will be their shepherd. He will guide them to springs of living water, and God will wipe away every tear from their eyes. The most natural question is going to be, what's it going to be like in heaven? Because now here we've made it now in this vision, Here we are. Now the time has come for what we call eternity. What's it going to be like? Surely that's what's inside the seventh seal. Once he breaks the seventh seal, the contents of the seventh seal is going to be, here's what it's going to be like in heaven. But look what it is. No, it's nothing. Silence. There, to finish what Kaufman said, the scriptural answer to that question, what will heaven be like, is this half hour of silence. It's not revealed. There is not a word in the whole Bible that actually portrays the events following the judgment day of the last day, the day of the Lord. I think that is a fact that is often overlooked. He's right. There's not a single word in the Bible that gives us any hint of what post-judgment day heaven's going to be like. Yeah, it's going to be better than the alternative. It's going to be better than here. That's what we know. But as far as what we'll be doing, what's it going to look like, a lot of the answers that people have come up with on that question, even in the church, is based on revelation again. Well, didn't it just say they serve him day and night? They're before the throne. They serve him day and night in his temple. Well, that could be a description of the way their life was while their whole existence. But they won't be hungry anymore. It's all in negatives, isn't it? There won't be hunger. There won't be sadness. There won't be death. There won't be pain. There won't be scorching heat. And a few positives there. He'll guide them to springs of living water. But I'm talking like practically on a day-to-day basis, which is still human terms because there won't be any such thing. What will heaven be like? Jesus didn't tell us. God didn't tell us. And even here, this is the spot for it. Silence in heaven for about a half hour. And then the next cycle begins. Dean, do you have something else?
Day and night, the thing is, there's only going to be day.
Yeah.
There's no night, so we know it's that's just it, that's something that we don't really comprehend.
Yeah.
We're just going to be there, and because God is the light, I think that's what it's God's presence is there in heaven, so we don't need any other thing except for God, because He is the light.
Yeah. Yep. Again, day and night is an expression. Serve him day and night just means all the time. Later, there will be no night. Well, wait a minute, John, you said they serve him day and night. Just means these people are those who have washed their robes in the blood of the Lamb. They serve God day and night. It's pretty straightforward when we don't get lost in the jungle there. But then silence. And instead of revealing to us what it's going to be like after Judgment Day, just black, silence. And then John looks up and he sees 7 angels standing there with 7 trumpets given to them. And that's where we'll start, Lord willing, next week, this second cycle. Now, just in case we've bit off too much to chew, just think of the way this developed, the first cycle, just to put a period on it. John sees the throne in heaven. And then there's a scroll. Nobody's able to open the scroll or break the seals except this Lamb of the tribe of Judah. He starts to open them. Earth, going through all sorts of trials and tribulations, which it has been all the time and will be until the end, which is what the sixth seal is, the end. The saved are sealed. The saved are gathered, if you will. of course, you can see what the premillennialists will do with that. That's the rapture, right? They're plucked up out of the tribulation. Well, they're not being plucked up from earth. The earth, it's all been destroyed. It's over. The only way they've been plucked up is gathered to be taken, just like Jesus said. They'll all be gathered to me, stand before my throne. I'll separate the sheep from the goats. These are the sheep. Chapter 7 is the sheep. And then the cliffhanger, we don't know. We don't know what that place that Jesus has gone to prepare, John 14, 1 through 3, will be like. We just know it's going to be greater than anybody could ever imagine. And most importantly, we will be with God all the time. It's really fascinating to think, considering the Bible is utterly silent on what post-judgment day heaven, eternity will be like. Speculation your imagination can kind of run wild safely because it doesn't say anything. So we don't know what it's going to be like. It may not be that much different than, I don't want to say too much, but it may be unlike any of our, I just think we've done heaven a disservice when we with this traditional view that the book of Revelation describes for us what post-judgment day eternity is going to look like. We're all just going to be sitting around a campfire with God singing hymns all 24/7. Haven't you heard that? Have you ever heard anything like that? I added the campfire part. But other than the campfire, have you heard heaven described like that? Huh? Yeah, no fire in heaven. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. But have you heard anything like that before? I have, a lot. Well, that comes from some of these visions of Revelation. And not even of the saved people, like the 24 elders were the ones, and the creatures were the ones that were singing hymn praise and praising God, over and over and over, 24/7. There's no indication that that's what we'll be doing for all eternity. That's just what John saw those beings doing, like now, you might say. Like if we could peek in there right now. But the point of that is not necessarily that that's what they're doing, it's what they're saying. Worthy, holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, and he is worthy to receive glory and honor and praise. So we don't know what heaven's going to be like. And the book of Revelation, once we get to the very end, we'll look at some two alternate, equally compelling views about what chapter 21 and 22 are talking about. But at any rate, silence. That's enough. That's enough, to be honest. It shouldn't be the only motivator, but it is enough. And that's probably why Jesus... Yeah. Why would the Lord prepare for us a place that is not somewhere we would want to be? Doesn't make sense? So, Jesus himself said, nobody has seen the Father except the one who's come from the Father. And yet, he didn't even tell us about it, what it's like. And people sometimes say, well, Jesus talked about heaven more than anybody else. He also talked about hell more than anybody else. By far. And maybe the reason that Jesus described hell more vividly than he described heaven is because that is a motivating factor, the alternative. But even if there was no hell, what heaven will be so great that it alone will be enough motivator to want to be there. And the ability to be there is a gift that we don't deserve. And Revelation 7:14, even in this figurative vision, tells us in a summary fashion what it takes to be among this group. Wash your robes, again, robes figurative, in the blood of the Lamb. So to wash your robes is to wash your soul, your spirit. Purify your soul, as Peter put it in 1 Peter chapter 1. Make sense? Cycle 1 complete. We've done the 7 seals. Now it's next week, Lord willing, we'll start the 7 trumpets.